It's pitch black outside. Your car starts filling up with water, and all you can do is just call for help. That's how the new year began for many people. And tonight, for the first time, a Wilton couple is sharing their New Year's Eve storm rescue story. And we're also introducing you to the volunteer firefighters who saved their lives and countless others.
Wilton is a pretty diverse community. I mean, we have people that have lived here for generations, bigger, newer homes, and you also have, older homes, which is really dynamic. And it's one of the things I love about Wilton as well. It's a growing community.
This community is very spread out. That being said, it's a very close-knit.
Everyone's a friend, everyone knows somebody.
We respond from the north side of Grant Line down to basically Twin Cities, and then west to 99 and east to Jackson Highway.
I knew the New Year's Eve storms were coming. I knew they were going to be big storms. However, nothing could have really prepared us for the magnitude of what happened that night.
One of our first calls was at like 4 p.m. And then after that, it was nonstop the entire night.
As soon as the evacuation orders were issued, the roads were already starting to flood. So by the time people were leaving the district, the roads were already closed off. The water was already blocking these roads and people didn't know the depth. And so people were getting stuck in these 2-lane roads, cars were blocking the traffic, and it made it very difficult for us to respond to calls. By the time the floodwaters came, CHP, Sac Sheriff, there was no way they could get to us. Consumers Fire, Metro Fire, we were isolated. We were it for the district.
When we talk about Wilton being an island, all of our exits were gone. From us to Jackson Highway, the road was flooded. We ourselves, in our high water vehicle, we couldn't get through. Dillard to 99 was closed off, Arno was closed, and it was all because of flooding. Same thing with Wilton Road. The water was getting up to the bridge and starting to damage the bridge, so we couldn't get out or get in. And I think that was the majority of our rescues were people trying to exit Wilton.
This night was honestly like the perfect storm. It was New Year's Eve, so people were trying to get to their families. And then 99 closed down, so they were diverting people through Wilton. And we were, at the time, blocked off in all directions. There were no exits. We just had to tell people shelter in place.
You gotta understand, with our protection district, we don't have swift water rescue services. We don't have boats, we don't have jet skis. We have PFDs, we have rope bags, and we have helmets. Some of the rescues that we made and some of that water was probably qualified for a boat and probably qualified for helicopters. We were able to adapt and overcome to those situations.
I think for the district in total, we ran about 50 calls. My engine company, we had 18 water rescues. I remember seeing hundreds of cars on Dillard Road just blocking off, abandoned, flashers on, and we didn't know if people were inside, if they'd already evacuated. So every time we get these calls for sinking vehicles, we were looking around, and it made it very difficult for us to find who actually was calling 911 at the time.
We'd pull up to situations where a car was underwater and we'd have to make a rescue, but we'd also see cars driving by them and trying to get through.
Typically, they would probably get halfway into these floodwaters to where their engine would just seize. And the floodwaters came about to maybe the base of their windowsill, and we would have to walk out in these waters with just a long tool to sound in front of us to make sure that we weren't walking into a ditch or to a hole, and to make sure that the depth was okay for us to walk in. So I remember throughout the night, we were walking in waters that were up to our chests.
It was absolutely freezing. A lot of the people that we saved that night were elderly couples. Right, so when you get them into a colder climate in water up to their chest, it's a huge concern for us.
We had no sleep, and it was just back to back. Every time we would clear a call, another one would come up. These people are counting on us. We can't stop. The calls don't stop. We're all they have.
We got the dispatch, Arno and Carrie, for the vehicle sinking in the floodwater.
We stopped and grabbed some Chinese food because it was actually his birthday. We start heading towards home, and Wilton Road is closed, Dillard Road is closed, and we're going, oh great, now what? We get off on Arno Road because we know that you can get through on Arno. We thought, well, okay, if we go some of the back roads and we had a 4-wheel drive, we figured we'd be okay because we were fine in the 97 flood. Then we get on Arno Road, and all of a sudden, I mean, the water was 6 inches, and then in less than 10 minutes, it was 4.5 feet high up to the top of the truck. The engine was covered up. So we called 911 and told them where we thought we were at. At that time, it was light, and we could tell that the water was rising really fast, and it was getting scary.
Floodwaters were at their peak almost.
We were in the truck about an hour and a half because it was light when we called, and it was dark, and there's no street lights out in the country. The water inside the truck was up to here on me. Literally, things were floating, and I'm going, okay, what do we do? 911 wanted to get us to climb on the top of our truck, and I said, I can't. 72 years old, I'm gonna fall in the water if I do that. It was a real current. You could just feel it, and you could see it. I mean, it was just rushing.
So we started making our way over here, and we noticed from here, about 100, 150 yards down the road, basically what looked like a lake. And in that lake, we had a black pickup truck. And the black pickup truck had its driving lights or fog lights on.
We could see them driving, trying to find us because it's dark and they're looking all over. And I remembered that I had a flashlight on my phone and I had 12% left. And I turned it on and I'm like this out the window trying to flash them down, and I'm hoping that that's what they saw.
I remember looking back at my window and I see a little bright light waving from their window. I said, that's probably them.
I ended up flashing my light back at her just to let her know that, hey, we're on our way.
We saw them turn around and come down, and then they had to walk all the way down to our truck.
I noticed that the water had risen and you could start to feel the current. Now we were working against the current. So it was more of a kind of light bulb in your head, like, okay, we got to get going.
Oh, I was so thankful that they were coming. I was just so grateful, you know, and I felt kind of stupid that we got to that position, and then it was just unbelievable. Never imagined ever that we'd be in anything like that. So we're very lucky, and we are very grateful to these firemen because I don't think they get the recognition that they should get. And I really appreciate it that they saved our lives.
I appreciate the guys, you know, that come out to get us. And I just would like to see the county and stuff take more, you know, a proactive thing with flood control. Because I don't feel that they really take care of the county like they could.
It took me several days before I could even get in the car again to go to drive into town because I was scared to, you know, it just kind of really gets to you and you think, God, what if it happens again and I can't get back home?
You know, at the time, we were just doing what we had to do. After the fact was when it started to really hit. A couple days after, when we started hearing that there were fatalities, like, you know, that's extremely tough to hear. You know, with all the rescues that we made, any of those people could have passed. So to be able to be there for that, it's a day that I'll never forget in my entire life.
Primarily a volunteer department. We have 3 full-time captains, and the rest are shift firefighters. So they come in, they work a shift, and they get a stipend. They were a training ground for firefighters moving on. Any day we could have anywhere between 1 and 8 guys show up.
When we see people out in the community, they know who we are, we know who they are, and it creates that really tight bond between the fire department and the community. You know, even on off days, just to be able to help the community because it is such an awesome community and a tight-knit group.
People come and buy and drop off gifts for us because they are so thankful for our services.
You don't really think about how hard they work, how they put their lives on the line for people they don't even know, and they don't get the recognition and the gratitude that they deserve. That's why I took them a thank you card, because I wanted them to know how much I appreciated it, that we did, because they deserve that kind of recognition, and I'm sure they don't get that much.
It's a privilege to be in the position to actually do this job and to work with like-minded individuals, especially on that night. We all definitely had the same goal of pulling out as many people as we can in the time frame that we had.
I mean, I love this department. Having all the training that we had helped immensely. I mean, we all ended up safe, and we made multiple saves. This is what we do. This is why we signed up for the job. This is what we look forward to, you know, helping people.
It's not every day you can come to work and save someone's life. Really proud that I was able to put this uniform on and go out there and make a difference in someone's life. If I go the rest of my career without, you know, helping anyone out, it'll all be worth it because I made a difference in someone's life that day. We all did.
And I want to say thank you to all of our first responders. I think Ms. Lockwood actually brought up a really great point that sometimes first responders, they go overlooked until we actually need them. So I want to say a huge thank you to all the Wilton firefighters. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. And also, Wilton firefighters, if you're watching, I want to let you know now, you're being put on notice. The To The Point team will be by the fire station for a dinner soon. And I also want to mention that, unfortunately, several residents in the Wilton area are still without internet and phone services. And during the January storms, there were many levee breaches along the Cosumnes River. So I called Reclamation District 800 out in Wilton to get an update on where the levees stand. They say that they are still working on shoring up weak spots and making repairs, but they still do not have enough money to really make those major changes that are needed. So the district needs funding, and today RD 800 told me that Congress members Doris Matsui and Ami Bera, they have committed to help.